So welcome to statistics number 15, and our video is going to be starting to deal with the measures of position, and we'll have a couple of videos on this over the next few days. Alright, the first measure of position we want to talk about is what's called a quartile. What is a quartile? What do you think? Does it divide things into hundredths? Tenths? Exactly. A quartile divides things into quarters, into 4 equal sized pieces. And so when we have a list of data, we already know what one of the quartiles is. One of the quartiles is the median. It's often called quartile 2. It's the median, and that divides the data exactly in half. So what I want you to do is I want you to use our technique of finding the median, and then we'll go from there and see what we end up with. So the first thing we do is we put the data in order, and we count how many data are there. So what I have found is n, or the number of data, is equal to 15. Therefore, the median is the middle value. So what I notice is that to find the middle value, I have to divide it up into a top group of 7 and a bottom group of 7, and the middle value is the median, which we're going to call quartile 2 because it's 50% of the data is above and 50% of the data is below. So then what you have to do to get the quartiles is you have to divide those data into quarters. And so what I need to do is go to the lower half of the data, and what you see is 7 numbers there, and the upper half, which I see 7 numbers there. And what I need to do in that case is to pull out the middle of those, in other words, the median of those. And the number 10 then is going to be quartile 1, and the number 18 is going to be quartile 3. Alright, we call quartile 1 the lower quartile, and we call quartile 3 the upper quartile. And that's how you find a quartile. Of course, there's a much easier way. You could just use your calculator, put the data in a list into list 1, and then do one variable statistics, list 1, and of course you'll remember the first thing listed is always the mean, and on the bottom of that first page is listed the standard deviation. But if you'll notice there's an arrow there, and if you just scroll down, you will see that these numbers are listed, quartile 1, 2, and 3, or quartile 1, the median, and quartile 3. Alrighty. So for any set of data, we can find then the minimum, the smallest value, the lower quartile, quartile 1, the median, or quartile 2, the upper quartile, or quartile 3, and the maximum. And you will see this is called then the 5-number summary. And with a 5-number summary, we can then create a picture of the data. And that 5-number summary is going to be called a box plot, sometimes called a box and whisker plot, etc. And I'm going to show you how to make one right now. So from our previous data, we know that we didn't list the minimum and the maximum, but they were 5 and 37, and we know quartile 1, the median, and quartile 3 were the numbers I have listed here. So if I was going to make a box plot, which is what we're doing, what I would do first is I would make a number line, And on that number line, I would list the whole range of data in a good order. And this needs to be scaled properly. So for instance, this would be 10, and then put 20, and then 30, and then 40. And let me draw this way a little bit so we know where 5 is. Okay? And then what I would do is I would make little vertical line marks where all these 5 numbers are. So where 5 is, I would put a vertical mark like that. Let me do it in a different color. Put that mark. Where 10 is, I would put a mark. Where 15 is, I would put a mark. Where 18 is, I would put a mark. And where 37 is. And so you can see there are 5 numbers, all right? With the 3 in the middle, I would connect them like that and make a box. And that's going to be quartile 1, the median, and quartile 3. And then what I would do is I would draw a line to connect the other 2. And this is what we typically call a box plot. And notice it is following the number line, so things are spaced according to how they would normally be spaced. All right. Now, what's this box plot do? Well, first of all, what you can see is that between the minimum and quartile 1, 25% of the data is in that region. On the smaller part of the box, there's another 25%. The upper part of the box, 25%. And then the top whisker is 25% of the data. So you can see, using the quartiles and the minimum and the maximum, those 5 numbers, actually gives us a picture of the data divided into 4 25% portions of data. Another way to look at it is the box is the middle 50% of the data. You can also see that the data is much more spread out on the top. See how it's more spread out on the top? All right, you see that there's a spread, but that the other 3 sections are virtually equal in size. There's a little difference, but they're approximately the same size. And so this tells us that this is probably skewed to the right, because there must be a high value that's making this whisker so long, or a few high values. Okay? And that's a basic box plot and how you make it. One other thing you can do with quartiles, you can find something that's called the interquartile range, and we write that as IQR. And all that is it's like a range, so it's 2 numbers subtracted. Which 2 numbers? Well, we take the upper quartile minus the lower quartile. So in our case, the interquartile range is 18 minus 10, or 8. And so that wraps up our video this time. I'll have some homework problems for you to do that deal with making box plots, labeling them, and finding 5 number summaries. And then the next time we get together, we'll work on using means and standard deviations to find position, and also some other things that we can do, percentiles and so forth. Anyway, thanks a lot, and we'll talk to you later. Out.